This is an ultimate global podcast. Hello, and welcome to our special weekly podcast on trending international and social affairs. You're listening to Saurabh Kaura and George Mavros from Sydney.
Well, welcome again to another exciting episode, exciting series of episodes that we are covering as a part of a special series of episodes that we are doing for the SDRs, AEs, and CSMs. This is not specifically for an SDR, of course, but it can be a good way to understand how a school teacher, how a sports teacher kind of transition to becoming a sales leader. We're being joined by David Wilkins today. He's the founder of the SDR Leaders of EMEA. It's a good community of SDRs, trying to empower other SDRs. And he is also helping early stage technical founders to grow their revenue through the GTM fund. We might go into that if we have time, but we'll try to stick to the topic for today, and that is your journey of how you transition from being a sports teacher to a sales leader, and what were your learnings out of it? Anything that you want to share with possible sports persons out there who might be willing to enter into tech sales? Because I've heard and I've seen that a lot of things that you learn from sports can be applied in sales, and you can definitely become a successful salesperson if you're good in sports. So off to you, Dave. Do you want to share your story of how you kind of transition from a sports teacher to a sales leader?
Yeah, more than happy to. So I always played rugby. I say that I love playing rugby league, but I coached rugby union because that paid the bills. And I was quite a good coach. So, and I was thinking, and my parents were both teachers, my grandparents were teachers. So I thought, okay, I really want to, after stop playing, I was playing semi-pro rugby over in the Netherlands. Okay, let's go and get a real job. Want to move into teaching. So I ended up at a private school in the north of England, being a rugby coach, and then moving into teaching when I was there, working as a assistant housemaster. Really loved it. Just great. It was a great world, but I'd spent already a couple of years in the Netherlands living there, and us Poms don't really like the UK that much. We try and get out as much as we can. So I was just like, right, okay, I've had enough of it here. Just love the way of life in the Netherlands. So I just moved back after a couple of years back in the UK, about 2 years. Moved back to the Netherlands. I'd hit my car had got written off because I'd hit some deer. Because I didn't realise that I forgot about the deer in headlights analogy, and I thought that if I blinked my headlights, the deer would move, and they just didn't. And so that was good. So I had like £750 to come back and come and live in the Netherlands again, and yeah, we can start from there.
Wonderful. So, were there any interesting lessons that you found while you were transitioning from sports to sales? Was there anything that you found are areas of convergence between the two lines? And what was like the biggest thing that you saw? Oh, that's something which I could really apply in sales as well, because there are a lot of things that you can apply, isn't it?
Yeah, it's mostly about command of the voice, command of how you speak. You have to sound confident when you're in front of 20 or 30 16-year-old kids. You can't be coming across as doubtful of yourself or lacking in confidence. They can smell it a mile away. And so I found that when that translated over to being in sales and being in starting out as an SDR, cold calling, that gave me a really big advantage, because I was able to sound confident even though I had no idea what I was talking about for the first couple of months.
So how did you end up tackling that?
What part? Sorry.
So you said that there was a problem in handling confidence in the initial few months. How did you overcome that?
Oh, I was just very good at hiding it for first. It's because I said about the kind of the way that you convey yourself and convey how you speak. You could not have any idea what you're talking about, but at least if you sound confident, it resonates with people. People go, okay, right, I can trust this person. And then the underlying thing of not knowing what I was actually really doing and stuff, that was just more of a learning, getting more reps in terms of learning what the solution was I was selling and getting more comfortable in my skin and stuff.
Cool. All right. I want to bring in George as well into this discussion. So George himself has been a business coach for ages. Do you have any questions for Dave or any points to add up to how sports can be applied to sales?
Well, first off, it never ceases to amaze me how many different titles we now have in sales to actually find a client, qualify the client, present to the client, close the client, and look after the client's final experience. We seem to have been able to slice up this cake thinner than a delicatessen can slice turkey. So how does one determine the successful SDR versus the unsuccessful SDR, Dave?
Yeah, so that's a really good question, because there's so many layers and point pieces that you can focus on. So I think you really want to look at it at the interview. I believe that it's to see success or failure of an SDR. It starts right at the point of the interview process, and it's this flow during the onboarding process as well. So what do I mean by that? We've designed now a integrated kind of process where we would do pressure and stress tests of candidates in the interview stage, because what we were finding is that if we were putting pressure and stress onto candidates after that into the interviews, into actually when they onboarded, candidates we were getting the wrong talent coming into the business, and that's just unfortunate. So we started doing a lot of cold calling role plays in the interview and asking them to deliver a use case in the interview process. And the reason why is we weren't asking them to be perfect, far from it, but we wanted to see how they would deal with stress of doing something like that, and then being able to take on feedback to improve upon it, and then do it again and see if they were coachable, to see if they could really take on feedback. And then we created a scorecard as well, where we listed out the traits that we were really looking for talent, weighted them, and then used that as this kind of objective scorecard that we could use in the interview process. So then if people weren't successful, we'd say, hey, look, these are the areas you need to work on. But if they are good, hit those thresholds, then we would use that in the onboarding process as well. Okay, right, this person's strengths are this, these are the areas they need to develop. And then we'd take that on into the onboarding process. So all of that taken, what does that mean in terms of kind of like key attributes that we're looking for in SDRs who are more successful than not? It's just be able to handle stress, pressure of having 100 no's in the day and then having one yes, which happens every day. and it's just really that performing under that pressure.
So do we have a quota that we're expecting them to pass through? Do we have a quota we're expecting them to pass through and then those be converted? And if they're not converted, did the SDR not do the job properly, or did the person that was supposed to do the converting not do the job properly? And how do we determine where the fault lies?
Yeah, that's a really good one again, because say again.
I said another good question. I was being cheeky.
No, but it's good though, because you're right in that we teach SDRs when they join us that, look, we want you to source, identify people, qualify them to a point, and then hand them over, and then give this product to our sales teams about, hey, look, this is somebody who's interested. We've got an initial pain, an initial need, but it's really, Mrs. Salesperson, it's your job to dig deeper and really try and exploit those pains out into the open and see if that can be quantified. And it takes this whole alignment at the top of the C-level to be like, right, this is the process. It's objective. This is what the SDR is supposed to be doing. Anything else, like, tough, that's not their job. Then it's up to you. And if you've got a really good, strong working alignment there at that top level, you don't get into those fights that happen at every company about those meetings were terrible. Sales, you're not qualifying. SDRs, you need to qualify better. There needs to be this real clear delineations.
And anything else that you have found in that whole sales cycle, Dave? Because it's easier said than done. You talked about that demarcation between SDRs and the sales team. A lot of the times, the conflicts can be at different levels. So I think one of the questions, which I'm sure not only me, but a lot of people out there would be loving to know from you, is how do we manage conflicts while working in a sales team?
Yeah. There's I learned a couple of years ago in my leadership training about assuming positive intent. It's people are not going to do stuff on purpose to screw you over. And they're not. There's like maybe one person who is Machiavellian in the corner going, wahaha. But I mean, no one else is. Everyone's just trying to get on in their day. So a lot of issues and friction points can just be discussed in one-on-one conversations, and really trying to understand, okay, why there is those concerns, why are there those issues, and coming to an agreement, like trying to figure out how we can help improve that. A lot of the times, and there's an SDR AE friction, it could be something as simple as, like, the AE has never worked with an SDR before, so they don't know what to expect, or they used to work with an SDR at another company 10 years ago, and so it's just about having that communication with them, and sometimes it's that, yeah, I'm really sorry, I didn't realize that's the process. And then ultimately, I mean, if there is because obviously I've been in organizations where you've got a sales team that is just not wanting to work with an SDR, and it could be for, there's always petty reasons, it seems, that people can bring. If you've tried to communicate, trying to understand their issues, but they might just be stubborn and say no, X, Y, Z, then that obviously needs to then go up higher. if we've got that alignment at the C level to resolve. Because ultimately, we're trying to make our sales teams more money. That's what our job is to help them make money. So if they're saying no to a resource that's going to help them make money, then there needs to be an explanation to the C level about why they're not doing that, using those resources.
Yep. I've got another follow-up question for you on that. So, how can a manager, or some people might say a sales leader, can play a role in that? Do you think they can make those one-on-ones more qualitative and make sure that they don't only talk about the sales results? A lot of the time they say that one-on-ones are meant to be talking more about, how are you feeling today and how can I help you become better in the next week? So how can you make those one-on-ones better as a sales leader?
Yeah, very much that. If you're a good sales leader, should be on top of the numbers just all the time. You should be on top of the numbers. So the one-on-one should have a piece of that, of the numbers, but really you already are understanding of the numbers. So you're already asking for commentary on some pieces. Maybe explain to me why we're not seeing those pieces convert. You've got this amount in forecast. What if those aren't to close? Do you have coverage? So there's this kind of more like asking for commentary. And then the second piece should be all around development of the person. I was at a company once where I was told that the salespeople at the company don't want to progress. They don't need any coaching or enablement. They're super experienced. They don't need any help. I was just like, okay, well, you're setting yourself up for failure here. Human nature, people want to develop. Human nature, people want to evolve and get better. And so you need to give people that space to have that coaching. And one-on-ones is the perfect time for that.
Do you have any further questions, George, on that point? On one-on-ones?
For me, I've always built teams. I try very hard not to build lone sharks. In companies that I've worked in, I've always had profit share. I've always had all the people sharing in the profit share. So the administrative staff, the sales staff, the warehouse staff, the secretarial staff, they're all in the same boat together. Now, they may not all get the same amount of money. They may not all get the same share of that pie, but they're all relying on profit share. In particular with salespeople, if you want to isolate out salespeople from one another, just bring in an individual budget and an individual sales target and an individual bonus scheme. Therefore, there is no interest for me to help you achieve yours. I'm only really interested in achieving mine. And then what happens? You don't care about mine anyway. You care about yours. Dave's the same. Whereas if we're all getting a bonus of our own rewards, plus we share in a group profit share, then you and Dave are doing well this month, but you want to lift me up. Dave and I are doing well next month, but we want to lift you up, and you get a far better team going. I think there's been a wonderful myth created over many, many years that every salesperson wants to compete with every person. They're competitive, there's no doubt about that, but they can compete against themselves. They can also compete against the opposition. When I was with the Outline team, there was 12 of us. One of our opposition alone had 36 salespeople. Our pride was the fact that there was 12 of us. We took on the rest and we kicked their butts. We didn't want to attack one another. We were the pack and we went out after the others. So in your one-to-ones, though, that's when you can start to talk to an individual about what can I do to help you, and where's the gaps in your armor that I can help you tidy up a bit. I've always had buddy systems. I've always been a strong believer in the salesperson that can close better talks to the salesperson that can open better, talks to the salesperson that can nurture better, and then you start to get group development. And the reason all three want to do it is because they want to get a share of a bigger pie. And if they get a share of a bigger pie, funny old thing, the company makes more money.
Right. Well, thank you so much, Dave. Good to have you on the podcast. Unfortunately, George had to leave because of some of his personal stuff. But I hope to see you again. I hope you enjoyed the discussion today. Any final comments from your side?
No, thanks ever so much for letting me be on part of your show. It's great.
This is an Ultimate Global Podcast. Hello, and welcome to our special weekly podcast on trending international and social affairs. You're listening to Saurabh Kaura and George Mavros from Sydney.